All right, I don't have a specific spot in the Bible. We will not spend a lot of time Bible tonight, as crazy as that sounds. But before we get rolling, let me kind of give you a heads up for Sunday with Snowmageddon coming in Friday or whatever. So here's how it works. We don't have a lot of snow days, but just kind of in case you're new and what have you. So we'll check it out on Saturday evening. Maybe even Sunday morning. One, if there's no power, there is no church. But two, just because your roads are great doesn't mean Man Road is great. Man Road gets very little sunshine. And so if there is ice on the road, on Man Road, we're going to call it. So if that's the case, what will happen is we'll have Alexis or whoever send out a text to let everybody know. We'll put it on social media. We'll put it on the church website. You'll get to know. But at the end of the day, if we can have church, great, but we're not going to put anybody in danger because God ain't going to be mad if we don't show up for one Sunday, okay? So, but that's kind of the deal. I know that bad weather's coming, and for the state of Georgia, I've heard all kinds of reports, so who knows what'll happen, but, you know, we're always going to err to the side of caution when it comes to that. So just that's kind of look for a text and you'll know from there. So we may even send out a text that says, hey, we're on, we're good to go, that kind of thing. So, but either way, all right, so the last time we met, it was December 4th, and I preached on frequency that night right before Wedstrong. It did not record. Therefore, I came back with me, CJ, and Ed in a room and redid it. But the difference was I had added some stuff because some stuff went on in New Jersey with some drones, and I added that stuff to it. Now, and so I'm going to do a review. I don't like tying up a lot of time on review just simply because if you're somebody that binge watches on YouTube, you don't want to go through a review over and over again. But at the same time, it just eats up time. And so, but I feel like we need to do it. Now, don't forget, this is always going to be our outline that we're working from periodically through here. And Satan, who is the god of this world, 2 Corinthians 4:4. Now, guys, I'm emphasizing that because I'm going to bring out some stuff tonight, and you're going to go, oh, that's not true. The world can't control the weather. Only God can do that. Yeah. Which God? The God of this world or the overall supreme being? And here's my issue, guys. Sometimes we act like only our Father in heaven is doing things on this earth. And what I would tell you is there is a God of this world who's doing things on this earth as well. And so we're going to talk about some of that tonight. Now, this has been our subtitle the whole time, which is the Bible and Ancient Technologies. And we've gotten into frequencies, and we've looked at different things like that, and we got into this area of frequency sound in the Bible. And this is actually, when you go back to this title, our 7th episode or our 7th week in this. Now, I'm going to do tonight's. We'll see what happens in the next 2 weeks, because from here I'm going to bounce and do frequency and water, and I'm going to bring out a bunch of Bible verses into that. And then after I do frequency and water, if that takes 2 weeks, we're probably going to start a new series on food. And as crazy as that sounds, we're going to talk about what the Bible has to say about food and how God sets certain things up and different things like that. And so it'll be interesting as you go. After that, I don't know where we're going, all right? So now, the last time we met, December 4th, we talked about stars and the Bible. And I am going to do a review of that. One, even if you were in the class, that's been a month ago, okay? If you weren't in the class and you watched YouTube even way back then, you probably forgot a little bit of it, but I want you to see it again tonight because it's going to tie in to kind of a part 2 here. And so remember, this is what a star looks like when you zoom in on it with a P1000 Nikon camera. This is the camera that I own, and this camera, and maybe if the weather turns warm again someday, we'll all go outside. We'll bring that camera and zoom in, and we'll be able to do maybe an evening event with the church where we can kind of look through some telescopes and see this. But you'll notice this is actually what a star looks like when you zoom in on them. That color and everything, okay? And now, I'm going to show you this video. Many of you guys will remember it, but I want to show it again. One, you might not have seen it.
Hello everyone, you are watching
We won't watch it all, but
little video, I'm gonna take some look at some stars. Yeah, I see other people do it, so I want to try.
He's taking the same camera,
and we're gonna check them out, both focused and unfocused. And to our help, we'll use the Nikon P1000. Enjoy.
Now this is Beetlejuice. Now he's going to zoom in on it. There it is, zoomed in, unfocused version. Now I want you to pay attention to that because I'm going to show some stuff. And by the way, guys, a $900 camera gets you that view. This is Arcturus. Yeah, they banned it. You can't buy it anymore. They don't want it out there. NASA bought it all out. There it is. See it? That's what a star looks like. Everything you see on Google Images is all CGI. It's all fake. Now, look at that thing dancing around. All right, so we're not going to spend the whole time. It's out there on YouTube if you want to go back and see it. Now, these are individual shots. So notice the wheel and then a wheel, and then a wheel, and so forth and so on. Now, before we go any further, every single time stars are mentioned in Scripture, it's always angels. Every time. You will never get the definition that you were taught by the Rockefeller school systems. You will never get that definition from Scripture, ever. It's always, always, always. And if you say, I don't know about all that, well, then just go back to part 6, and I take you through the Scriptures to do that. However, I wanted you to notice what they look like. These are stars, right? Which, here's another look at them. And look at the colors that they are. And they're always circular and they're always moving. This is what frequency looks like. Now, watch this. Remember what Ezekiel said? When he saw the throne of God? We have those cherubs around there. They had a wheel in a wheel. Okay, so you got to just start wondering, is what we're seeing the angel, or is it the device that the angel uses to move from point A to point B? Okay, now, I'm still in review. Now, this is kind of a rendering of Ezekiel's wheel in a wheel, and it had eyes around it and so forth and so on, and I showed more of that. Now, I showed this last time. Now, now what you're seeing right now, if you were in class on December 4th, this is new to you. If you haven't watched the video, this is new to you. Now, I know Justin wasn't in the class or watched the video because I talked trash about him on the video, and he's never said anything about it. All right?
Oh, I heard you.
Okay. I hear you, player. Now, nobody is better at predicting the future than the Simpsons. Okay? Now, notice where Homer is. Welcome to New Jersey, right? Look at this. The drones, right? I'm not done. Watch. does it look like? What did I just show you?
These drones.
That's zoomed in on it. All the birds are flying away. All right, now. He's even asking the question, is it drones, Blue Beam Project, biblical angels? So I'm not the only one that thinks that way, okay? Now, watch this. For those of you who go, oh, that's somebody's Instagram. Any of you conspiracy people can do this. Okay, well then fine. Let's go your route. Since all y'all still want to believe in the local news. All right, here it is. This is Charlie Kirk. If you guys know Charlie Kirk, all right, he posted this. Matter of fact, when he posted this, Pete Myers sent this to me on text. We were putting the roof on the church, and he's like, and I had just taught about those stars. And he's like, dude, you have got to see this. And so I pull it up, and this is the video. Now watch. This is ABC Channel 7.
And Bill and Sandra, you know, when things like this are happening, it seems everyone starts to look up, like my crew and I have been here in Mendham recording this video that you're looking at right now. We have no idea what it is, if it's a natural phenomenon, because it could be, but this is why so many municipalities are now asking people to reach out and send their videos to them or to experts who might be able to sort out what they're seeing in the skies. But I guarantee there's so many people looking up and making those recordings because this mystery is one that needs to be solved. For now, we're live here in Mendham Borough. Tony Yates, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Now you saw it spin, right? Now what's crazy is I had just taught what biblical angels look like, or biblical stars, let me say it that way so that you don't get all jacked up. What biblical stars look like when they're there. Well, so you got to ask your question. What we're seeing here, is that a good guy? Is that a bad guy? Who is that? And what is that? Okay? And so I just thought it was very interesting when we speak about frequency. Now, I'm going to show you this real quick. We're not going to spend much time on it. I know this is review, but I'm trying to get your head back in the game after a month. This guy is going to take frequency, and I want you to notice what he's doing here. If I could do this. There we go. And this guy's a little weird, but hi. So he's going to put vibrations inside of this plastic wine glass with a camera and light going to it to show you what frequency looks like. And I know I'm taking a lot of class time to see this, but I want you to watch this.
How fast this motor vibrates by changing the power supply. So if I have it at 3.5 volts, it's going to start to oscillate. And so here, the stem of this glass is shaking back and forth, and it causes the surface to create standing waves. So at this point, all I have to do is change the voltage to this motor, and I will end up with getting different patterns. And the patterns are pretty cool that way. So here I'm at 3.5 volts, and I can bring it up and get some different patterns. And I'll take some pictures of these and drop them right into the video. Now, the important thing to realize here is that you're going to get different pictures in relation to the shutter speed, because all these patterns are in relation to how fast the shutter's going. And most of them are all average. The lighting is fairly straightforward. It uses a NeoPixel ring to create different colored lights, and they're point sources. So they have to be pretty close to the axis of the camera lens as it points down. By the way, sometimes these vibrating patterns are called cymatics, and they have absolutely no healing properties whatsoever.
I disagree with that, but go ahead.
So you want the lights to be on axis. So here I'm going to bring that lighting ring up to the camera, and I want to get it as close to the camera as possible. And I'm also going to adjust it back and forth. And the lights will reflect off the surface to make those pretty reflections. And this is programmed.
Now remember what that star looked like.
When I like the color, I can hit a button and stop the colors in some arrangement that I like. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some pictures. I'm at 1/60th of a second right now, and that becomes the pattern that I see at 1/60th of a second. Now by changing my shutter speed to, say, 1/40th, I'm going to allow it to get more light to be reflected around the surface, and it'll average that pattern together. Here's another 1/25th. I do get a lot more light in, so I'm going to...
Now I want you to notice the patterns. That's going to come into the night.
And that's the average. Here I'm going to bring...
See the patterns in it?
1/10 of a second. There's 1/10 of a second.
Look at that.
And a lot of people think I'm changing the frequency or something. No, I am just averaging.
There's another one.
So it's the same vibration pattern, but we're just looking at different oscillations averaged across the surface. By the way, the standing wave patterns are really cool in all of physics, and it's something you should check out.
All right, now, so the patterns are all symmetrical, and that's going to play into tonight's lesson if we can finally get to it. Now, then we closed last time with frequency, sound, and the animal kingdom, and I talked to you guys about what really got me into the frequency world was our cat who died. And what happened was we had noticed about a month or two before he died that his purr started to change, and we started looking into this, and what cats can do from their purring is actually heal themselves. That's why I disagree with that guy, what he says about frequency and healing. Doctors all throughout the world are starting to use and understand frequency to heal the human body, not just the human body, but all kinds of other things. And so what happened was with Blue, you could hear the difference in the purr, and you're going, okay, what's the deal here? And we learned from the vet, and we obviously studied, and I showed some of that last time on how that went. We talked about bumblebees, and the reason why honey never goes bad is because what they actually, at their wings, when they're fluttering, making the honey, produces a frequency that ends up in the honey, and they have found honey pots in Egypt with honey over 1,000 years old, and it's still good. It does not go bad, and it's all because of the frequency. Then we got into elephants and how they can communicate with sounds that are that we can't hear, and it goes for miles, and they can communicate with each other. And most of y'all understand sonar and how animals speak to each other underwater. Same concept, okay? Everything that we deal with in this world deals with energies, frequencies, and vibrations. Now, we'll pick up here. You ever wonder why the birds sing before sunrise? Now, if you get up early enough, you can hear this, okay? But what's crazy is, so Christy and I go to the gym. You're not going to hear about this time of year, but when we go to the gym in the summertime, we leave the house right about 3:20 and go to the gym, and you don't hear them much. But when we get back from the gym around 4:30, you can hear them up in the trees just singing like crazy. And then the sun comes up and there's a lot less singing. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why are they singing before the sun comes up? Well, all right. Research has found that the frequency of birds chirping actually plays a key role in the health and growth of plants. This is why I disagree with that guy about healing and frequency, okay? Now, when birds begin their song at dawn, the sound frequency help open the stomata, tiny pores located on the underside of the plant's leaves. This natural process enables the plant to breathe and absorb carbon dioxide, which is essential for photosynthesis. Essentially, the tree has slept for the night. It has went to sleep. And the bird is acting like an alarm clock to wake it up. and it's before sunrise, okay? Now notice here, all right? This natural process enables it to breathe and absorb carbon dioxide, essential for photosynthesis. In simple terms, birds are nature's alarm clock, waking up the plant world, helping them begin their day of growth and substance. All right. Now, one curious farmer in Iowa took this discovery and ran with it. Inspired by how the birds helped his crop, he began experimenting by playing classical music to his cornfields. Okay. Now, think about this. You got your neighbor over here and he's growing crops and he's got Beethoven playing with speakers pointed at the crops. All right? Now, bottom line is classical music and the frequency of classical music is tied almost directly to the same frequency of these birds. Okay? So what goes down is, while some of the neighbors thought he was a little eccentric, he saw incredible results. His corn grew up to astonishing 15 feet tall. His squash plants started producing 5 squashes per leaf instead of the typical 1. And even his walnut trees grew twice as fast. This phenomenon is known as sonic bloom, a combination of frequency, vitamins, and plant care that supercharges the growth. Now, okay, the greatest of all of God's creation is man. And if God so designed that the plants would be healed, and not only be healed, but to expand their growth through frequency, what do you think it does to a human? You are out of your mind if you don't think music has an effect. Every culture in history of man has had a type of music. Every one of them. Matter of fact, I guarantee you, you will not find one human that says, I don't like any music. It's just not how we are. Matter of fact, if you go to your Bible, out of the 66 books, the biggest one is Psalms, which is a song book. Right? There is a reason why when you file in here Sunday, hopefully, depending on the snow, all right, when you file in, we're going to start with singing. And the reason being, much like those birds, waking up those plants to be able to receive sunlight, if you know where I'm going with this, then Jeff and the band's job is to lead us to a place where we can wake up to receive the sunlight of God's Word. Okay? And so there's a connection to all this and on why we do this, and it's what gives us growth. Okay? And same thing, people have figured this out for years that you can play classical music to a houseplant. I mean, and it makes a difference. Play classical music to a woman who's pregnant, and it has a massive difference on the kid when it's born. And we didn't know that. We were... Well, don't worry. We weren't playing Zeppelin back in those days. We were a part of an independent fundy, and we were not allowed to listen to anything except Gold City and McCamey's and, yeah, all that stuff. So now, okay, so I don't know why my screen keeps going up there. Man, come on now. There we go. All right, now, frequency and our atmosphere, okay? Now, you ever look at some of these older buildings, and I don't have time to take you down the rabbit trail of why buildings are not like buildings used to be. But you ever look up and they had these big tall spires, and at the top of them were always these balls, whether it be a church or just a regular building, but you got this like lightning rod, and you got this ball here. You don't see this much anymore, okay? And remember, I did a whole thing about why there was bells, why cathedrals are the shape they are, why the stained glass is made out of what it is. It all is connected to frequency. Now, when you go and look, I'll play this one for you. If I can... Where are we at, guys?
And then you start to see these antennas on top of a lot of the cathedrals that have spires. You know, they have these spiders and these balls that are attached to them. And usually what that ball would be is that ball could be iron on the inside to hold the mercury, because mercury will eat things. It's a living substance. It's just like water. If you place things around mercury, like other materials other than iron, it'll actually eat it. It'll just grab it and take it up. So if you take, for example, you have a lightning rod, you have an iron core, you have mercury in the inside, and then you have brass on the outside, and there's any type of spin or vibration that takes place, such as a pipe organ or a bell, and that mercury begins to spin in that ball, you start to generate electricity. And I've actually tested it. I bought a vial of mercury, and I got a voltmeter. I spun the mercury, just like this, with my hand, nothing crazy, in front of the voltmeter, and I started getting voltage. So then I thought, okay, now you have an antenna, which is massive compared to my little hand, you know, and everything else. And if you had a large amount of this, and any spin that takes place, you could have free energy right off your roof, just based on using sound and just materials.
All right, now, I'm not going to take you down too much of the rabbit trail. You understand why energy isn't free, right? Tesla wanted to make it free. Edison didn't. Tesla lost out, all right? And the reason being is it generates a lot of money on this planet to produce not just electricity, but your fossil fuels and everything else. It is all designed to make that always follow the money, folks, always. Now watch, we'll go on to this next one. So how many of y'all have ever heard of the ether, which is up in our atmosphere, okay? Tesla was a genius, and he had figured out how to tap in to free energy, and you can even build a Tesla coil yourself if you get, I mean, the drawings are online. I don't know that I have the brains to do it, but I'm sure somebody does. And they could go and build this and get free energy from, it's on a small scale, but you can get it from the ether. Now watch this. Now check this out. This is a really cool video.
Check out this video where a man attaches a copper wire and flies the drone up to about 115 meters and shows off the ether in action.
So he's going to take a copper wire and go straight up in the air.
And hold steady. All right. It didn't blow up yet. Oh, by the way, meet the aerial film crew. I just thought this was a cool shot. Oh, yeah, I'm getting shocked right now.
So the wire that's attached to the drone, he's attaching here.
Woo! Now that's a few thousand volts right there. All right, let's see if there's enough current to make this Franklin bell work. Oh, dude! Freaking working, buddy! Yeah. It's a really cool process. The aerial wire places a positive charge on this can, which then influences the foil ball to deliver electrons from the grounded can, which is directly connected to Earth. The clouds finally opened up, so I connected up the corona motor. Like before, one side was connected to ground, while the other was attached to the aerial wire. And after just a few seconds, hey, she's spinning! This is just remarkable. It never really spun that fast, but I just sat and enjoyed the miracle. I mean, I quite literally was siphoning energy straight from the atmosphere. This motor was operating off of several kilovolts, which you could actually hear if you stopped the motor and brought your finger near the aerial wire. That's the...
All right, so now, you understand he's getting energy right out of the middle of the sky and bringing it down through that copper wire, grounding it out. And you might be thinking, oh, good night. I came to church on a Wednesday night for a science class. Okay, you understand the God that we serve created all that. And what happens is as churches, we have a tendency to go, oh, well, we're going to leave that science world to the non-believers, and we're just going to stick with the Bible. And I'm like, no, the God of the Bible created the science, and we should be able to understand it because we have the absolute authority or the absolute perfect book to know about things, and yet we just ignorant to all of that. It's like, nah, man, I don't need all that. Now, hang on. Have you ever, for those of you that garden, okay, you could take a copper coil, you can wrap it around a stick and shove it into your garden, and that same energy that I just showed you off the drone will work its way down into the soil, and your crops will actually grow much quicker, much bigger. It's a really simple thing. What, any of y'all do this?
I've never heard of it, but I'm
Yeah. Yeah, you stick it in there, wrap the coil, the copper around it, shove it into the ground, and it literally invites all that he was doing with the drone down into the plant. All right. Now, fires and frequencies. Okay. Now, fire resonates at 369. Now, if you understand Tesla, he said the key to understanding the universe is 369. Okay. The frequency, 369 hertz, is what actually fire resonates at. Okay, now hang with me. Now, what does 369 hertz do? Well, it stimulates the body's natural healing mechanism, boosts the immune system, and supports optimal health. It has been found to promote relaxation and reduce stress levels. How many of y'all have ever just sat around a campfire and just, it's like chilled out? Like, that's a very relaxing moment. And you ever notice how we're always drawn to it? You just sit there and stare at a fire. I mean, it's really cool, but watch. By listening to or incorporating this frequency into the daily routine, individuals can create a calm, peaceful environment, allowing the body and the mind to unwind and rejuvenate. The 369 hertz frequency has been associated with pain relief and reducing discomfort. The 369 hertz has been linked to the improvements of cognitive function and mental clarity. It is believed to enhance focus, concentration, and memory. It has been found to promote emotional balance and stability. It's believed to have regulated emotion, reduced feelings of anxiety, depression, and stress. It is often used in spiritual practices to align with divine and access wisdom. Now, think about this. Before that little gadget that's now on our walls or even in our hands, 100 years ago, what were people doing at night? Well, hopefully more than a candle, but yeah, I mean, they're lighting a fire and they're going to sit around that fire. And even if it wasn't a warmth thing, most people had a fire going to cook with. Okay? And so think about way God has so designed that the frequency of that fire, that you would have sat around and you would have not dealt with anxiety like you deal with now, depression, that it stimulates immune boost, it stimulates it's a pain reduction. And we would have sat around and think about how many of your grandparents sat around and read their Bible. When it's talking about connecting to the divine, you got to understand when you're studying the frequency, guys, they're not all Christians. All right, so when you're reading about the divine, they're talking about the spiritual world. But think about this. You're sitting around a fire reading your Bible and not knowing that frequency is literally working through your body, and God so designed these things to happen. Now, what do we do at night? Yep, watch a television. What do you think the frequency is coming out of that? And then how much problems do we have because of the radiation of this thing? And we're sitting around. We literally have gotten into the world. Our phones are not in our bedroom. They stay in the kitchen. That's why certain times people are like, I called you last night. Well, my phone was in the kitchen, so I'm sorry. I was already in bed. It was 5:30. I had to go to bed. So, but you laugh. I've been up since 12:30. I cannot sleep at night right now, and that's a whole nother frequency thing. So now, think about it. When you're sitting around, who doesn't like that? And then what did we do in modern homes? Yeah, we took them out, put in gas logs. We don't even have firewood anymore. And you may wish you had it come tomorrow night or all right, now, frequencies and shapes, okay, when we think about sacred geometry and all that. Now, you ever notice when it comes to this that all flowers and things like this, not just flowers, but crops and plants, you ever look at the symmetric layout of them? I mean, I don't know how you look at creation and go, yeah, this just so happened to happen. Right. Really? Because the math says otherwise. So, I don't know who the guy that originally said it was, but the saying is, a little bit of science takes you away from God, a lot of science brings you back to God. And the reason being is because you start to realize this stuff is too perfect. You can't just make it up. It couldn't just happen, okay? The odds are just too overwhelming. And look at the designs. Now, somebody has laid in the layouts over the flowers, but look at the symmetrics from it. Now, these are what's known as sacred geometry. Now, more than likely, sometime this spring, we're going to get into the Masonic Lodge again, and we're going to start exposing some things, and I'm sure that's going to irritate a few of you, but I don't care. So, now, when we talk about sacred geometry, those who call it sacred are not the Christians. It's those in the occult, those in the adept, those that are into the secret sciences, and 7 sacred sciences, and one of them is geometry, and it's the sacred symbolism that goes along with it, okay? Now, as you look at that thing behind me, let me remind you what those stars look like. And let me also remind you who came to Mount Hermon and started teaching mankind things they weren't supposed to know, or at least yet, all right? Now, this is a cymatic plate, all right? Now, I bought this very thing, and my plan was to put it in this room and do all this stuff in here. One, we even went out and bought about 200 earplugs because the high frequency, you guys complain about air conditioning. I couldn't imagine what you were going to complain about with the sounds in here. The other problem was, and we are going to do this at some point for our church, but it's got to be done in the gym. It can't be done in this room. The other dilemma that we were having is, not only are you here, but we also have hundreds of people online on YouTube, and it was going to be hard to do this. But I want you to understand what this thing is. This is a study of sound vibrations made visible typically on the surface of a plate or a diaphragm with membrane here. And this thing here is a tone thing, and you can change the hertz of the frequency, which run through over here on basically like a speaker, and it vibrates this plate. And then what you do is you put salt on it, and it, as you adjust it, and I've been doing this in my shop for months now, and it just is fascinating. Now watch this. This is some of the looks, okay? So at 345, this is what, 345 hertz, this is what the salt will shape into. You adjust the knob, go to a 1033, that's what that same salt switches over to. If you switch it to an 1820, it goes like that, and so on, and so on, and so on. Now, when the adept or the occult talk about sacred sciences and sacred geometry, it's because they understand how these frequencies work and how they're involved in healing. It's one of the reasons why, if you go back and look at this, we were just last week in New York City, and one of the largest churches in the world is in New York City, and it's called St. John the Divine. One of the most impressive buildings I've ever walked in my life. And we got a tour of the upper level, and the sun was shining in, and it's only seen at winter like that. And they've got these big glass openings that are shaped like this. Now, how'd they know about that? I mean, we're just now figuring some stuff out. How'd they know about that? Now, check this out. All right, I'm just going to play this for you. So it's 806 hertz right now. 498, and all he's doing is adjusting the knob. 978. Now, before I get into this, you understand everything has a frequency. And everything is moving. Everything's moving. Okay? So, now check this out. Those stars I was showing you and they were bouncing around, how do we know that the angels don't have a certain frequency and that's their job? Just to move in that frequency to bring God glory. Which brings me to this thought. So when we read our Bible and where the woman comes and the people are crying out and the Pharisees are like, Jesus, you need to tell them to calm down. He's like, if I tell them to calm down, the rocks will cry out. Now, we're either some really dumb Baptists, because they don't have a voice box. They don't have a mouth. How is the rocks going to cry out? In frequency. By the way, do you understand how your voice box works? It's a frequency. Everything on this planet is moving in frequency, giving God glory. That is the major part. The difference is God so designed man with the voice box and with intellect to go with it, and best of all, I don't care what the Calvinists say, with a free will to be able to decide to go, I am going to honor you, because everything else is. Everything else is. Now, let's check this out. You ever heard of direct energy weapons? Okay, this is where I'm going to get in trouble. Okay, so let me just do something. For those of you on YouTube, this is for entertainment purposes only. I don't know anything that I'm about to say to be true. It all probably is false. Okay, entertainment purposes only. All right. Now, so we now live in a world where the military has weapons that work through frequencies where they can literally shoot at objects with weapons you cannot see. They don't exist. Not to the naked eye. And therefore, these weapons are so designed that, like this ship shooting up a laser or a energy weapon could knock down a drone. And never actually, which is really good from price tag standpoint, because bombs cost a lot of money, right? So, we just do this in an energy weapon and we can just keep reusing this. I'll give you an example. This is what's called active denial system. All right, it's a terahertz, so it's a frequency that is really, really low. Okay, a terahertz-based military deterrent for safe crowd control. So frequencies work off wave patterns, and terahertz are little bitty tiny frequencies. Okay, and these machines, like this thing, can pull up to a crowd, raise that panel up, and shoot frequency at the crowd. Now check this out, all right? This is done by, and I don't know what's going on with the computer tonight, but sorry guys. All right, now, a terahertz waves are invisible, and just as other electromagnetic radiation types can be pointed to a distant target by means of special antennas and amplifiers, less than a decade ago, a group of scientists led by Raytheon designed a mighty deterrent system for crowd dispersal that employed unique features of THZ, which is the terahertz, all right, mega waves, multiplying their generally soft touch. Now notice that in quotations, soft touch with a generally powerful generators or gyrotrons to achieve the desired effects. Officially has been given the name of active denial system, ADS, and is basically represents a direct energy tool for crowd control, area denial, perimeter security, and similar security related purposes. Informally, the weapon is also called the heat ray, and it is not without reason. Okay, the technology is based on non-lethal impact on human skin, which in other words does not kill, but scares off people from locations where their presence is unwanted. So in other words, we've got a whole crowd of looters out here and rioters. Just pull this thing up, direct it at it, and they don't even have to get that close. They can shoot those beams, and the skin on the people will start to heat up. Okay, and it tells you here. He goes on, he says, the technique employs millimeter waves at the frequency of 95 gigahertz that considerably heat up the very thin top layer of human skin, only about 0.4 millimeters deep, up to the temperature of approximately 53 to 54 degrees Celsius. Such heat rate impact generally by this standoff deterrent system lasts only a couple of seconds. In other words, once you get away from it, your skin goes back to normal. Now, this is what they use on crowds. What do you think they have on the next level? There's other systems like this that they can shoot into a crowd and you don't even feel nothing except anxiety or just the desire to go, hey, I got to get away from here. Like, that's the world we're living in. And you study about Revelation, one world government, and how are they going to control billions of people? It's not going to be that hard. And this is what we're doing. Now, all right, so let me carefully walk you through this without getting in trouble. The place behind you is out in the Pacific and caught on fire. Okay? We were just there a few years ago in this very spot that you're looking at. Now, we have cars that are burned to a crisp. The tires are gone. The palm trees are still here. You told me it was a forest fire. The cars are gone. The trees are there. Oh, by the way, hang on. Now, we literally have pictures at this building. All right? The steel, this building is like the one you're in. The steel has melted and fell over. The car's tires are gone. Why is the asphalt there? You ever mess with asphalt? I mean, you get out on a hot Georgia day and you can get a parking lot's a little gooey. All right? Now, but you see it, trees. Now, the reason I bring that out is because, one, a lot of you still buy into the news that they tell you. We now have a system of direct energy weapons that can be pinpointed. And a few years back, and I don't know if you guys know what's going on in California right now, okay? But a few years back, they had these wildfires. And the trees would still be standing, but the houses are gone. This house would be gone, this house would be here, this house would be gone. Well, how did that work in a forest fire? But then what happens is you start to realize, many of you, if you'll remember when the microwave came out when we were all kids, what's the one thing you didn't do? Put what? Yeah, don't put metal in it. And it starts going crazy, right? So these microwaves that get shot at metal act different than how they act to living things. So you put your food in, and it acts different than how it acts to metal. Okay, now, I'm sure I'm going to get kicked off, but either way, when we talk about frequencies, this is how it is. And you can direct that energy literally to a pinpointed area. All right? Now, this is HAARP and weather modification. Look at this system. Now, this is where I said earlier, everybody always tells me, hey, well, God's in control of the weather. He is. I'm just wondering which God. Because there is a lot of weather modification going on this planet. And for those of you who go, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist, all that's unproven. All right, now hang on. When I was a kid, clouds didn't look like that. Now, what happens is they shoot this stuff, frequency comes out of this, shoots to the sky, and gives you that pattern. It's crazy. Now, you're going, oh, I don't buy into that. You're one of those chemtrail guys. You're all into that. Okay. Do you know what Tennessee did this year? They passed a law back in April, the state of Tennessee, banning geo-modification, weather modification in their state. The federal government cannot chemtrail in the state of Tennessee. Now you say, well, chemtrailing, that's all conspiracy theory. Then why did they pass a law? Why did Florida have it on the ballot this fall? Oh, if it's all just fake. And by the way, for those of you that think it's fake, hang out with me one morning on a construction site. I can show it to you constantly. Skies are blue, sun's coming up, it's great. Then you see all those planes go over, and you go, oh yeah, I've seen airplanes. No, not like this, you ain't. And they go in X's, and they do square patterns, and you wait 30 minutes, and it looks like that. Do it all the time. And it's done by frequency. Now, once again, I'm about to show you this, and we'll let you go. This is a video by Dane Wigington, and for those of you that would want to maybe study understanding what chemtrails are, understanding weather modification, Dane is the man. This guy and his crew have actually went up in planes going through those chemtrails, collecting data, and coming back and analyzing it. I'm not going to bring it up tonight. How many of y'all are checking out this fog? It's going all over America today. All right, we'll get into that maybe one time that I'm not online. All right, now check this out. This is Dane.
Was Hurricane Helene's path and behavior just the result of natural processes and climate patterns, or was it manipulated? The circular blue flashes seen in this video are frequency transmissions from the NEXRAD network of transmitter installations. All available science evidence makes clear that atmospheric frequency transmissions can and do have a repelling effect on air masses, especially if and when the air masses have been seeded with electrically conductive nanoparticles. The brighter the blue flash from a frequency transmission installation, the more pronounced and powerful the repelling effect on any air mass or storm in the vicinity will be. Where there are no blue flashes, there is no transmission, thus no repelling effect, thus no resistance for a migrating storm. Translation: a migrating storm will be hindered from moving toward frequency transmissions and will easily migrate in a direction with no transmissions. So again, I ask, was Hurricane Helene's path and behavior just an act of nature, or was it engineered? You decide.
All right. Now you saw all the blue. That blue is what that if we go back to the HAARP, the blue is those things. So you got this storm coming up out of the Gulf. It goes over into North Carolina in an area that we were just working at weeks before that. King Mountain. How many of you guys remember where that hurricane was supposed to go? To us. It's supposed to go right up, according to all the weather guys, it's going right up here. Ends up in North Carolina and parks it. And you guys saw the devastation. But if you watch what Dane is showing you, is that's the lighting up of those HAARP units, which is making that storm actually push over. And it's just working off frequency. He said, well, why would anybody do that? Well, you always follow the money, folks. There's a huge lithium mine right there where all that is. And here's what's went down. The people in North Carolina have been so devastated, the government's coming in and taking their land now on pennies on the dollar. I actually heard this week that many of the people in those counties are being charged for their taxes even though their house isn't there anymore. And they're still having to pay it. Guess what happens if you don't pay it? I will just take that from you. And just a little side note, one of the big investors in that lithium mine is Mr. Kamala Harris. What's his name? Timoff or Tim something off. Imanoff. Yeah, it's something like that. But either way. And so the bottom line is you may think, okay, this is crazy. Well, it may be crazy, but you do understand 2 Corinthians 4:4 is not designed to make you think, oh, well, Satan's just working against me at the Target. He wouldn't let me get that good parking spot. Like, we act like spiritual warfare is some goofball stuff like that, when no, the guys that are in power are running to destroy mankind and work to a one world government. So what makes you think we're the ones nuts? I'm just reading the Bible and then looking out the window going, yeah, that makes sense. So, all right, we're out of time. Next week, we're going to get into water. And I hope I can do it in 1 week. If not, it'll be 2. But it'll have a lot more Bible in it. So, all right, guys, don't forget, if we have to call off, you'll get it via text. We'll let you know something Saturday.